this is, I feel like it's one of those things where you're like, here's the secret to a happy life, Katie.
No.
Take the secret.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Spirited Body. I want to welcome all the fellow experiences out there to our podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about activating your spirit and living from your spirit in your daily actions and having your spirit present in your everyday experiences. My guides want to show you how to interpret your life through the lens of your highest self so it can be easier, more joyful, and more satisfying. After all, we're all just spirits in a physical body. I'm James Vager. I'm your host. I'm a psychic. I do some channeling. I do readings for people. And I'm here with my beautiful, wonderful, intelligent co-host, Katie.
Oh, wow. What an intro.
You like that one?
I like that one. That's the standard practice moving forward.
I'll type that in.
Please do.
And everyone, welcome. It's been a few weeks. I had a college drop off since we last
Tell us
met.
about that.
It was quite emotional. It was.
Is it like mixed emotions? Like you're ready for it, but also not ready, or it's just like you weren't ready?
I definitely was ready for them to spread their wings and experience life in a new way, and seeing how much they changed and seeing that sort of pressure being released. It was almost like, a pressure valve was released when I said goodbye. And
sometimes the build up to the transition is often what I have found worse than just the actual, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And so they could have just been all that pressure of the big, it's a big change at that age to move away from all your friends and family and life as you know it. There's just no pillars of stability or grounding of what you know.
Yeah.
And
they had as we've talked about, they've had a pretty trying, stressful last couple of years here. And I think it was really just that release to see them exhale,
start anew,
and just sort of step into themselves and who they've wanted to be and felt restricted from being. And even just in one day, it was everybody. I was with my sister and her husband and my partner, and everybody commented, what a difference just in 24 hours.
Wow.
It was gratifying. But what's interesting, and I've talked to other parents who just like 3 of my friends did college drop-offs this year. And what's interesting is coming back. And it's like, think of the amount of background space in your brain that's occupied with thinking about planning for your kids. Mm-hmm. And then that goes away.
It's like a weird sense of freedom that you have in a way now.
It is, but it's almost like a little bit of an empty space where I'm like, what am I going to do with this? Yeah. It's a little scary in a way, like, oh, that's a big gap. Do I have enough in my life to fill that gap? And I know that's probably not the best, as I say it out loud, it's not the best way to interpret it, but that's almost how it feels.
I know what
that's
you
how
mean,
it feels. And so Nathan's like, are you doing okay? And I was like, of course he came to talk to me today, and I started crying about it because it just, it comes in waves where, and I said, it's funny, being in my house without them, there's a little bit of an emptiness, and it's like, where do I put that energy now? That was taken up by them. So, but I mean, I'm super happy for them, and I know they're going to do great. And it was so nice to see how happy they were. So that's what I've been up to.
Big changes. Yeah.
Big changes.
Fall's always a big season of change, I feel like.
And you?
More than other seasons.
You're doing okay?
Yeah.
Good couple weeks.
I did a kindergarten transition, which went terribly. That's okay. My child's very much the product of the pandemic, not a lot of socialization, and she's not as flexible and likes predictability. And we just turned her world upside down in a night. Like, oh, you're going to kindergarten. Of course, we talked about it a lot, but you don't really understand until you're there. Luckily, she's held by a good group of people in a good space, but it's hard to watch your kids, I think, regardless of the age or what it is they're experiencing, go through any type of internal emotional challenge that you can't do anything about. You just have to hold space for. And so, I just held space, but those extra, and then of course they got sick, and then I got sick, and then I was like, okay, we're gonna keep going here.
Kindergarten's amazing.
Yeah. So no, I've been okay. It was funny because, I've been feeling really, I don't know why this is. Maybe it's I noticed it when the season started to change. It's like, fall really starts on September 21st or something. But about 2 or 3 weeks before that, everyone starts to feel like, here we go. It's coming. Energetically, we're shifting into this season. And I don't know why for me, I just feel the transition from summer to fall more than any other transition. And, but I was feeling just so neutral. And I was like, why do I feel this neutral about everything, even though there's a lot going on, I would say that at this point in my life, I've had the most going on in the last couple of months than ever, really. And then you texted me and said, next podcast topic's going to be neutrality. And I said, of course it is. So I have a lot of questions today, actually.
Okay, that'd be great. I love it when you ask the questions.
I just think it's so weird when I experience those things in my life and then you text me that while they're going on.
Well, I think too.
Maybe I should start texting you what I'm feeling.
Guess what the topic is.
Yeah.
But I also want to recognize you're doing a lot of work. You're doing a lot of internal work.
Yeah.
And that when you start creating those new understandings, that brings with it a stronger sense of self.
Mm-hmm.
And the stronger your sense of self, the stronger your ability to be neutral.
Yeah. And it's weird because I feel like I've had to do a lot of surrendering just to the idea that when you make these steps, you don't always get to know what the outcome is going to be. And it could actually be really hard for a little while, So personally, I've been making a lot of strides and efforts to really be checking in with myself and creating more boundaries that create a little bit more for me, because I do tend to show up in service of others a lot. And I am starting to see that doesn't always serve me. So that is a big change for me. And then, just even in my business, I've been behind the scenes for 7 years, and everyone is like, sorry, you don't get to play that role anymore. Now you're in front of investors, you're in front of, you're forward facing in the company now, and you just have to take that role. And I know that sounds kind of silly, because I feel like a lot of people are like, yeah, I want to be the one who's in. And so I've had to really overcome I had to record this whole thing yesterday for this investor video, and I had our production crew here and everything. And I had a shitty attitude. And I was like, I went home last night and I just said, what is it in me that makes me not want to do this? And it's not that I don't want to do it. It's I do want to do it, but there's something in me that's coming to terms with what parts of me have to be let go in order to now move into this role. I can't be the introvert behind the scenes all the time anymore. That's not what's being asked of me. And if I actually want to move forward with the mission I have in my business, I have to surrender to those parts of myself that I thought were me, they're not serving me anymore. And so it makes me think a lot about attachment and expectations. And the minute I say I'm an introvert, even, I put myself in a box and I limit myself to so many things. And so I'm just really having to evaluate the narrative. And you know what the summary of the work that I've been doing is the narrative or the story or the things that I thought were me. I've sort of opened my arms to all those, and I've put all of those labels down, and I said, time to rebuild the story. We're not doing that story anymore.
And I'm just going to interject one little thing. When I do readings for people, or people ask me questions and I get sort of spiritually based answers. What they say is you don't have to go from black to white. You just need to open the door to the possibility that something else exists, because that loosens your grip.
Yeah.
You don't have to understand the truth that there's infinite possibilities, that you are infinite. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's like eating the whole cake.
Yeah.
But if you just could say, you know what, let's take the word introvert, for example, and you say, is it a possibility that I'm not? Or is it a possibility that's not the whole
That's just maybe
truth?
A part of me, but not
that's
the
a
whole
part.
thing. Yeah.
And just that loosens your vision. It allows you that possibility in, and then you can't hold so tightly to one thing anymore. Even just the idea of it loosens your grip.
Yeah. And have I talked about this before? Like the thing, maybe I've brought it up 1,000 times, but I think about it almost every day. So I'm going to bring it up again. They did some study on, remember this? I told you how many different ways there were to do dishes.
Yeah.
And there was like 250 ways to do the dishes. So I always think about that's a very simple task.
Yes.
So it just points to the infinite possibilities that there really are. And so to be so solidified in my sense of self, you don't know who the fuck you are.
You don't. And that's what the exploration is, and being willing and able.
And the person that I was, it's not that person's allowed to evolve, and I'm allowed to learn about that new person.
Yeah.
I just am so exhausted that I just can't do it anymore. And the funny thing is, when you do that, people get scared around you a little bit.
Are breaking those patterns.
But even in my business, as I've kind of come out of my shell and I'm like, no, we're going to go this path, and I'm making more calls, and I'm being a little bit more like, okay, you can put me in front of the camera. You can do this. Let's go. I can even see like a little, everyone's super supportive. They've actually been pushing me, but do you know what I mean? You can sense the whoa, we haven't seen this side of Katie. And I can, the closest people in my life though, they're like, yes, we love these parts of you. We knew these parts existed. And that is how you know how your people are, who your people are. There's been no judgment. It's, like you and Nina and Amy and Stephanie, you guys are just like, hey,
bring it.
We love these parts of you.
Absolutely.
Just do it.
And then this is one thing that I'm going to make a correction on. I bet that it's actually more work to hold on to your beliefs than it is to let them go.
Guaranteed. I can already feel that. It's just, you know what it is? It's just that first step over the line of can I let this go? And then when you get a little bit of oxygen from that, you're breathing a little better. And then the second step, and you're breathing a little better. And it's not to say that in parallel, hard changes aren't happening. People aren't reacting. Things aren't falling apart because you let that thing go. But the breath that you get, the air, the oxygen that you get from making those little steps is enough to feel how different it is to hold it together, to keep going.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. And
don't get me wrong. I have moments of thinking about, that saying ignorance is bliss, where you just, I remember being so asleep at the wheel, and then I'm like, well, how asleep am I still? In 5 years, how asleep will I have thought I am now? Does that make sense?
Yes.
It is easier in some sense, but it's easier for your physical body, but it's painful for your soul.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your soul always knows.
And so instead of, I want everyone to hear this, that's listening and working toward being more spiritually connected, more spiritually satisfied, more integrated into their life and who they are, and reducing that resistance. You don't have to go from black to white. You need to go from black to less black.
Yeah.
And you don't even need to move there.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand that that if you believe in black and you're just holding on to black, that there's a possibility that you're actually less black. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think that that's what they want you to understand, is just that little sliver of understanding, of acceptance, of acknowledgement, creating that extra bit of possibility is just that easing factor, and that your grip loosens internally. I
think, acceptance breeds a lot of freedom and accepting that the fact that we can, like you said, it's like holding it all together about who you think you are does take a lot of work. It does take a lot of energy.
It takes a lot of fight.
And it's just a facade anyway.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm just going to keep going with it.
Yeah.
And I feel lighter as a result.
Yeah. So we're going to start the channel. And the channel's on.
I feel neutral.
I feel super neutral about this topic. And so we're going to talk about neutrality and what they want us to understand about neutrality.
Can I ask a question before we go into it? And maybe you'll just answer it. But one of the things that came up for me while I was thinking about neutrality was, what's the difference between neutrality and numbness or denial? Because when you're in a state of numbness or denial, you do kind of feel a little neutral. So how do you decipher between those two? I'm curious.
I'm going to read the channel. Okay. I want you to put a pin in that question.
Okay.
And we're going to circle back to that.
Okay.
In my business speak. We're going to put a pin in that question because honestly, I did this channel like 2 weeks ago. So I really don't remember a lot of the content. So it's going to be
like if you could have done it this morning, you still wouldn't remember.
Yeah. I mean, you're right.
It's just like you kind of like black out.
Yeah.
I've watched your channel. I'm like, you're not James. Yeah.
So I'm going to read the channel and then we're going to go, we'll answer the question if it's not answered in the channel, and then we'll circle back to it in the context of it. So let me get my glasses on. Let me have a sip of my iced caffeinated beverage.
What my favorite thing is? When I ask you what your coffee order is every time before I come here, I'm like, what kind of mood is James in today? Last time, I'm going to share the story really quick before we start. Was it our first? We had been out for a little while for some reason, and it was like one of our first episodes back. And
it was the first episode of second season.
Yeah. And then you were like, okay, I'll meet you there, blah, blah, blah. And we get there, and then like all the lock systems broke on my, before I texted you, what do you want? And you said, I want a missile with an ad shot. And I went, oh shit, is James okay today? And then we met up, and then we couldn't get the lock to work. And then we got the other keys, and then that didn't work. And we were just like, fuck this. But today you have black coffee. So I'm like, well, it's a really neutral choice. So let's see what happens.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Neutrality. Hear us when we say to you that we are here for your understanding and easement of your life in your physical plane. There is much to learn, and for us to teach for you to find ease and satisfaction. We have provided so much information on how to improve the ease of your life that you could spend the rest of it in peace and ease with what we have already shared. Everything is there. We say this to let you know that the more you learn, the greater the potential for improvement becomes. Also understand that the more you practice and process what we have already instructed, the deeper your understanding and connections will become. You will begin to open this information like a flower and see the many layers and interconnectedness of this knowledge. As we have said before, this process creates joy and satisfaction for us as it increases your knowledge and ability to bring communion into your life and to your world. We have said many times that to change yourself is to change the world. Can you feel that? Take a pause for a moment and truly reflect on the understanding that changing yourself is the only responsibility that you have. For an alteration in your understanding of the world is a change in how you behave in it. Changing your understanding of your behavior is a change in your understanding of others, and subsequently a change in your treatment of others. It is a key concept that you understand that you do not have to change the world through others. You just have to change yourself. More accurately, you just have to know yourself. Just the small little task.
The details.
We know that through the listening and practice of this information, you will have a better understanding of yourself and your reactions and behaviors, which will lead to greater ease in the world you live in. This is the basic understanding that we want you to have in your mind as we speak to you of neutrality and the idea of it as it applies to your world. This topic of neutrality has with it many interpretations on your planet. we want to assure you that the neutrality that we speak of is not the removal of emotions.
Uh-oh. Okay. This is answering my question. Here we go. Okay.
It is not callous disregard or unemotional detachment from others or forgetting emotional connection to what you love or hold dear. We speak of existing energetically from a place of assuredness and security, which prevents being pulled into others' attachments, relationships, and reactions.
Can you say that one more time?
That's giving me the chills all over. We speak of existing energetically from a place of assuredness and security, which prevents being pulled into others' attachments, relationships, and reactions. This includes your own.
So it's not avoiding the emotions that exist with another person or a situation. It's about not becoming attached to their.
It's not being drawn in or pulled into another person's attachments, relationships, and reactions. So being so assured and knowledgeable about who you are.
I see.
That other person's own attachments and relationships and reactions don't alter yours.
I see.
And they take it a step farther by saying this includes your own, that you don't get pulled in your highest self, your assuredness in who you are, doesn't get pulled into your own attachments and relationships and reactions. So I'm going to
That's trickier.
Yes. It's much trickier.
I always get it. And then you take me to the next space where I go, oh, that's going to be harder to understand.
So let me take a pause briefly for a moment here and talk about attachments, relationships.
Okay.
Okay. So how the council talks and means those words. So we have a better understanding. And I think that later on, we're going to do a podcast, an episode that's simply about the attachments and then maybe another one that's simply about relationships.
Okay.
How they define them. Okay. Yeah. So when they talk about relationships in this context, they're talking about your compass. We've talked about the internal compass that we all have, and that when we have our internal compass pointing us toward our true self and what our true self wants and what reverberates with her true self, and as the Gen Z says, vibes with our highest self.
Okay.
That is the relationship that we should always have as our compass. So that when they talk about relationships, they're talking about where our compass is pointed.
Yes. And
that relationship to ourselves is primary. And when they point to relationships, what they mean is, where have we altered that our compass? Is our compass pointed to our future? Is it pointed to our past? Is it pointed to another person? There's a number of different relationships that they basically say there's a number of basic ones. I think it's 4 relationships. I don't know off the top of my head, but there's basic ones. There's like 4, 5, something like that.
Okay.
Basic relationships that we as humans turn towards. We switch that internal compass from our highest self to something else.
But they're saying that the compass needs to be turned only, or the goal should be only to your highest self.
Yes. Only your truest self. Okay. Correct. The other category is attachments. So when let me back up just a second. When we have a relationship toward something else other than ourselves, it will never lead us home.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And we can pursue, that I need to make sure that I am, I'm worried about my future. What does my future look like? And I'm constantly paying attention to what my future is. Just an example.
Okay.
And I'm making my decisions based on what I think my future should look like, or my worry for what my future is going to be.
Okay.
My decisions become very different than if I say, what's satisfying to my soul? What is reverberating What is vibing with my highest self?
I feel like I'm on an episode of Oprah right now. She talks about this all the time, like coming from that place of intention around what satisfies the soul.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is one. There's a number of different ways that we come askew.
But that's a huge concept, James, just for a second, to think about day to day, in and out life decisions that you make. I would say most of us are not making decisions from there at all.
I agree.
And that we live in a society that takes us so far away from that.
Yes, because there's a lot of inputs that people have where there's compare and contrast about where you should be in your life, where you shouldn't be. Look how amazing I am. Look where I'm vacationing. Look where I'm living. Look where I'm staying. Look what I just bought. Look at my life. Look at my partner. Look at, and all of these things where people are showing. And so our ability to stay on track is very difficult. It's skewed. But the way that we know, the way that you can know as an individual person in your life that you are off track, and understand too, this doesn't mean that every area of your life is off track in this way.
Okay.
But it could be one area of your life. Your finances are garbage, or they never work out for you. You never have success in a job, or the place that you're living, or your relationship is wrong, or you're struggling. And everybody has different aspects of their life that they're very dissatisfied in.
Okay. Trust me, most people are going to say more than one, but
no, multiple aspects of your life that you are dissatisfied with. And what they're saying to you is, in that area that you're dissatisfied in, that one area of your life that you have dissatisfaction in, your relationship is off.
Because you're not, okay.
Does that make sense?
So let me try to repeat it back. So if you have an area in your life where you're feeling dissatisfaction, it's important to evaluate how you make decisions in that area of your life, because you're clearly making decisions that are pointed and the compass is pointing in the wrong direction.
Yes. Somewhere other than your highest self.
If your compass and your decisions are coming from your highest self, you're not going to feel dissatisfaction.
Correct.
The podcast is over. This is our final episode. That is our final sentence.
It's major. On top of that,
I don't think I'm going to be able to go on.
On top of that,
this is a tangent from the read. This is huge.
Huge.
This is, I feel like it's one of those things where you're like, here's the secret to a happy life, Katie.
No,
take the secret.
100%. Like that's why they're deck. So let me explain attachments now. Okay. So that's relationships. So this is where your compass is pointing.
Okay.
The second aspect of your life is attachments. And attachments come more from your physical mind, physical past mind. So that this is the part of your brain that stores information about how to keep you safe.
Okay.
And so we all have attachments. And those attachments are unconscious beliefs that we have that are ready to determine our reactions. So you get in those situations where you react quick and you get really angry.
Because we had an attachment to a different outcome.
Or you have attachment to a belief that is unconsciously driving your reactions. So you might, and so there's a limited number, there's a bunch of different reactions that we, a bunch of different attachments that we can have.
So like your kid does something and you get upset. You have a belief and an attachment that kids act this way with their parents or something, and they don't fulfill your expectation. And so your belief around how they should be showing up is causing your reaction.
Yes. So they understand there's a number of different attachments that anyone may have, right? But they all sort of boil down to a few across human experience.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example of one. And this is actually one of the biggest ones as I've encountered it when I've been dealing with people. It's the attachment to a belief in the loss of identity. that if you make a decision or someone's doing something to you, you at the root of your defensive reaction or your angry reaction or your scared reaction is that somehow you're going to lose the identity of who you are. Your partner says, no, I want to do this. And you freak out. And at the root of that is an attachment to the belief that if you agree, you're going to lose your identity, or that you have the possibility of your identity being taken away. It's actually a very, very common issue with people.
So like, give me an example. I can conceptualize this, but I want to like break it down in day-to-day practical terms. So people like, so that I myself and people who are listening can like, can you give me
so this is actually one that I've had, and I've attached it to my understanding of some of my claustrophobic moments, like where I feel claustrophobic.
Okay.
I have this, it's not really, it doesn't really happen anymore, but this is bizarre. Can't believe I'm going to share this, but
I'm excited.
There's a period in my life where I felt that if I was stuck in traffic, it was very anxiety producing to me, because I kept thinking, what if there's a major problem?
I've had this thought. Yeah.
And I can't get off this freeway.
Like a natural disaster or something like that.
And that idea was rooted in my belief that I would be nothing, that I would just be lost among this crowd of people. And no one would know who I was. My identity would be just lost in a sea of people. And so that's an attachment. So if someone,
we talk about this a lot with our community members. When they're like, I don't have the motivation to exercise. And then they're like, I missed my workout and I feel like shit and I'm a failure. And I'm like, oops, you just attached yourself to a person who's a failure. And when you attach yourself to the person who's a failure, what does that person do?
Fails.
They fail. But I feel like we do that in little ways all the time, and we don't see how powerful even that thought or those words are.
And what they really want you to understand is it real that you could really lose your identity? As a human, as a person, as a soul, can you lose your identity? Is it possible to lose who you are?
Okay, I'm going to pose something to you that's really coming up for me right now. So I always am very puzzled because my husband, my partner, he always goes through lots of identities. It's like the opposite. He's like fine to throw the old ones away and be like, I want to try this one on for size. Like I've watched him go through so many phases of like, I'm a musician, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm whatever. And I'm always like so fascinated by that process too. Is that like the inverse of what you're talking about?
Because that's not really what I'm talking about.
Okay.
That's not what they're meaning.
Okay.
They're meaning of you as a person, that you will somehow evaporate. You as an individual person, you as Katie, me as James, will no longer exist. And if you felt...
So like the stronger, like we have this belief that the more attached we are to who that person is, the less likely that evaporation will happen because there's such a strong identity in that person?
If you are more attached to it, does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you are more attached to who you really are, you understand, you can feel that you are sovereign. No one can take that away from you. Nobody. And the thing they often will say to me is, and other people, is who would you be if you couldn't move, see, hear, talk? Would you not be Katie? You'd still be Katie. You'd still have your thoughts. I'd still be James. Everyone would still be exactly who they are. That's who you are. There's no taking that away. That exists solely in your spirit. You can't destroy that spirit. Is that making sense?
Yeah, but there's something that we're attaching to in the sense of like, if I am that in that state, it's not necessarily that I'm not me or you're not you. It's that the world around me will react differently based on that.
Possibly, but that's one step beyond what the point I'm trying to make. I'm just trying to describe what an attachment is. So if I have a belief that that part of me, whether it's a wrong belief, but if I had a belief that that truest part of me would disappear, could disappear, and that it's at the mercy of somebody else. So if I'm in a relationship with someone, or if I'm stuck in traffic and I believe that a natural disaster or the amount of traffic around me can erase that, my anxiety or my reaction to someone who's coming and asking me to do something that I don't want to do is going to trigger a reaction based in a false belief that they can erase my identity. Okay. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. That's all they're talking about. They're not talking about the specific facts of it. They're talking about us as humans. One of the things that we can attach to is that belief that we can be erased by somebody else. And if I feel threatened that you're going to erase my existence, erase my identity, and you come at me asking me for something that I don't want to do, what's my reaction going to be? Is it going to be lovingly turning you down? Or is it going to be a harsh defense from a place of fear? Mm-hmm. It's just one example. And so there's a difference between relationships and attachments. Relationships is where my overall goal is pointing. And then attachment is the set of beliefs, unconscious beliefs that I carry with me.
And those could be carried from past lives, like that. We don't have to have consciousness around that we don't have to have consciousness around that to have that belief.
Correct.
Okay. So that's the other thing is like, I think we know our beliefs, but I think that we don't always do.
100% correct. And that's why they talk about attachments, because they're so unconscious that they set off our reactions very, very quickly. And we may not understand. And so we don't even question why we're reacting that way, because it happens so automatically. And so what they're saying is, when you are bringing it back to neutrality, that being neutral means that you are so comfortable with who you are that somebody else's improper relationship with their own self and somebody else's attachments won't draw you in.
Wow. So you can still have all of your human experience and your own emotions, but it's the drawing in of the other that takes you out of that neutrality.
100%. And the next step is that you are so assured with your connection to yourself that you don't even let your own attachments and your own relationships, misguided relationships or misaligned relationships, pull you out of it, which is a lot closer to home, which is a lot more difficult to do.
Well, yeah, last night I actually had this question around, it was kind of like the first time that I felt like this was happening to me on a really magnified level, where I was like, whoa, I feel like all these thoughts are in my mind and I don't even know which thoughts to believe. Have you ever had that?
No.
Where you're like, just the concept of like that you don't have to believe all the thoughts that are in your mind.
Of course.
But like, do you ever feel like, I don't know which one feels true or not for me? So you have a thought and you're like, is that true?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Just like, I don't know, that just reminded me of just that idea of the part with the self that you're talking about does feel a little bit more complicated. It does feel a little bit more gray and understanding. Because I experience that all the time where I'm like thought. And I'm like, whoa, which one? I got to slow down. Which one? And maybe that's why lots of people recommend meditation, because it is that opportunity to slow down. But just that, like, I don't know what thought to even believe.
Yeah. And so, we'll be talking about this more in a future episode, because there's a lot there, but, I just want to make sure I define those two terms for people, and, to understand too, that, they've talked about before, like what you need to do is just review. You just need to review those dissatisfying experiences you have through your day from a safe in your mind space and go, why did I react that way? Why was that unsatisfying to me? Why did that bother me? And being able to have the courage to dissect it enough to go, oh God, I really felt like that person was trying to take my soul from me. And then go, is that true? Why do I feel that? And being able to just dismantle it and understand where some of these pieces are coming from.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to make sure we describe, because they're clearly saying and understanding that being neutral is staying within your own assuredness so much that not only are you not going to be affected by someone else's misguided relationships or misaligned relationships or unconscious beliefs, you're not going to be affected by your own misguided relationships and your own attachments and unconscious beliefs. And so that's that moment where you're taking that pause between receiving information and responding to the information.
Between stimulus and response, yes. There is a choice. Yeah.
And so that's a lot of work. And again, what they're saying is you don't need to do it in the moment. Because we have a brain that remembers, because they've given us time on the physical planet to create space.
Whenever you say the word planet, I feel like we lose a listener. Oh shit, they're going to get into alien stuff. Like, I don't know why. I'm like, every time he says planet, I'm like, we just lost someone else.
So that's important to understand, that we have the ability to review and change. And we have physical time to create space that allows us to do that review. And then the energetic thought that we have where we release that belief or acknowledge it so that we can release and understand it better, that's energetic. And that doesn't have time. So we get to change our life forward and backward. Crazy, right?
We're going to need to take like a break or something. I don't know. Okay, go on, I guess.
Was that a lot?
That was a lot.
Okay, so I'm going to back up a couple sentences.
Okay.
Are you doing all right?
I'm doing okay.
Do you need some resuscitation over there?
A little bit.
Let's see. We want to assure you that neutrality that we speak of is not the removal of emotions. It is not callous disregard or unemotional detachment from others or forgetting emotional connection to what you love or hold dear. We speak of existing energetically from a place of assuredness and security, which prevents being pulled into others' attachments, relationships, and reactions. This includes your own. For neutrality exists as an observer first. Neutrality creates a small gap between observation and reaction. It allows the clear interpretation of what is happening around you and inside of you, so you may react from a place of recognition and understanding, security and knowing, comfort and solidity. We have detailed the many ways that your physical past mind interprets, anticipates, and compares in order to maintain safety, and the ways that your physical body can interfere with your ability to be present, as well as the information that you receive from your soul can influence and direct behavior and response. This myriad of inputs can be overwhelming and easily provide too much data, contradictory data, to provide a sense of security, comfort, and safety. It is easy to understand why neutrality can be so difficult to achieve, especially when observing and interacting outside of your own space, meaning your internal self.
Mm-hmm.
Let us give you a simple way to understand the idea of neutrality. These three main realms that provide information to you are quietest when they are aligned. When the realms of body, mind, and soul are aligned, the information they are providing to you is simple, direct, cohesive. Understand that these realms that we mention are also the past, present, and eternal as interpreted and represented physically in your being on earth. You doing all right?
Just processing.
Past is the physical mind which stores memories of the past and brings them with you wherever and whenever you go. Your physical body represents the present, as you are constantly receiving information through your body about your present moment. Your sensations always feeding you information about now. Lastly, your soul brings you information and connection from the eternal, all working continuously and for your benefit. When these realms are aligned, the information is congruent, like three branches of a stream that converge. This quieting of the discord allows for a steady message that does not bring discord, but harmony. Can you feel the steadiness that aligning these energies will provide? We feel you knowing that this creates calm and peace, and we also feel the questions on how to achieve this state. As with all work on this plane, we encourage you to feel into the ease with which you can be touched, for reaching it is not the challenging part. It is the staying in the space that is the challenge. Let us say to you that the achievement of alignment of your three realms can be achieved by aligning and balancing the energy centers in your body. You refer to these centers as your chakras. This balancing of your energy zones is a rapid way to align your three realms. There are many methods available to you to accomplish this task and to practice this energetic flow. None are wrong or bad. Do whichever feels good to your energy flow and presence. This balancing and awakening of your energy centers connects or pins your realms together, giving you alignment. This is not the only way to achieve alignment of the three realms. You can get glimpses of it through meditation, release of attachments, and other activities that ground you in the present and focus your mind in a pleasurable, non-threatening activity. So I'm going to pause for just a second. You okay? Okay. This is I didn't really remember how like sort of semantically, logistically this channel is.
No, it reminds me, sometimes my 9-year-old will come to me and say, "Ooh, your energy's not really rooted in your chakras right now." If she doesn't get an answer that she wants.
Spiritual manipulation. I love it.
She's like, "Your energy's really up here. I'm wondering if you can get more in your root chakra." I'm like, okay. But it's true. It sounds like that is a way. If what I'm hearing you say is that if you're feeling like, you know, the past, and then the physical body being the present, and then your eternal being the guide, if you're feeling like there's disconnect, that getting centered in those energy anchors or chakras is a way to actually achieve that cohesiveness.
Bringing that alignment in so that the information you're having to process is aligned.
Okay. So that answers the question I just asked before this. When you feel like, whoa, there's so many thoughts and I don't know which one to believe, that is my indication that maybe I need a little bit of rebalancing. Yeah.
And the last thing they said is, yes, you can do this through meditation, and there's, you know, you can go on YouTube and you can look at a million different ways to do chakra aligning, and there's like none of them are wrong, because as long as it leads you, it feels good to you.
Great.
That's it. The other thing they pointed out, which I really liked, is they described it as in a pleasurable, non-threatening activity. So the people that do art, paint, ceramics, music, you know, think of the activities that you enjoy doing that sort of put you in that space where you're not threatened and you're just doing what you want to do. That is like an alignment. State of flow. Yeah, because you are bringing yourself so perfectly to the present that you allow yourself to open.
Oh, wow.
Does that make sense?
100%. It's like pick an activity that you know will put you in that state of flow.
Yeah. And it's typically something you just enjoy. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know.
And I think that was fascinating, because it's like, oh, just do that more. Do the thing that you really enjoy a lot more.
And maybe that's linked to what I was saying earlier about just how I do feel this part of me, like knowing that, I only have a certain number of energy units I can give a day, and I want to participate in things like that more, maybe because I'm feeling the benefit of that, which is that alignment that you're speaking of.
100%. And then it gives you opportunity to practice neutrality more throughout your day so that you don't feel like someone's actually taking stuff away from you.
Because you're in the practice and the art of bringing those three parts of you together for alignment. And the only way, it's like the more disconnection there is, the greater chance for not being able to experience neutrality. And the more we practice bringing that alignment, which I will say is one of the driving forces in the work that I do outside of here, is like getting people to move in their body in a non-threatening way, right? Like a lot of the work I do is like, do not use my product to lose weight and to think that you have to look a certain way. Like that's shitty intentions. Like create connection with yourself and move your body. And I do feel like just that simple act of non-threatening, meaning I'm not here to do this to look a certain way, but I'm here to just connect with myself, does like, even like on the human experience, we can talk about science and how it does that, but it does. Connecting with your physical body and the presence does bring those three together.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure if we all just stopped for a minute, we could think about those times where we were doing something somatically or physically that really did just kind of, everything felt a little lighter after.
And grounded and centered, aligned, peaceful. Okay. A neutral state creates the space for evaluation and assessment of your own thoughts as well as others. It removes the lenses that you have created to interpret the world around you. Let us also recognize and bring to focus that you all have lenses, and those lenses do not always work universally in your life, but can work in certain areas only. For example, you may feel and interpret threat in your work that you do not use to interpret your romantic relationships. Your lenses can be situational. Yes, another layer to the human experience. The world around you and within you is constantly providing you with information and opportunities to provide you the care, support, and reinforcement to enhance your human experience. The world around you and within you is constantly providing you with information and opportunities to provide you the care, support, and reinforcement to enhance your human experience. It is not a threat. Nothing in this world is against you. Nothing.
So we might interpret something against us, but it's really just an opportunity that we're choosing not to see as an opportunity.
What lens are you wearing? Where's your relationship aligned in that moment? What attachment are you reacting from in that moment? Which
links back to the other episode you did about there's no mistakes, because that doesn't exist in a world where you're given opportunity to.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that this to me is really huge. That idea that nothing in the world is against you, and that the world and the universe is constantly providing you with information and opportunities to provide you the care, support, and reinforcement to enhance your human experience. Nothing is against you. How many of us really feel that on a day-to-day basis, constantly? That nothing is a threat. I think that's a very rare situation.
I mean, especially, I feel like, I don't know, in the age of information, we are so aware of so many threats that we never were even aware of, but still existed. Mm-hmm. And that is one of the downsides. Mm-hmm. Is that
and the understanding too that people that provide that information that shows up on your phone or in your Facebook or in your feed or whatever has an angle. It all has an angle. It's all manipulated to manipulate you, to create a reaction. That's someone else's reaction. That's someone else's belief being delivered to you to evoke a reaction from you. All of it.
Wow.
Anyway, It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It is. This is a big one. I didn't realize how
Clearly
how packed this one was. Nothing in the world is against you. Nothing. We say this so you may truly know that what you perceive as a threat is your lens standing in the way of knowledge. Hear us when we say to you that knowledge of the world would bring safety, security, and achievement of your desires. Neutrality allows the best opportunity for that interpretation, recognition. Imagine if you knew that your entire existence and interaction with the world outside of you is merely information to help you achieve your innermost desires and peace and happiness. How would you change your behavior? How would you encounter the world? How would you begin to change your reactions? Your feelings of safety and security. This is the true state of your world. This is why we say to you that you cannot be off your path. Your path is only leading you toward communion with your higher self. Do you wish to take the long route or the shortcut? Practice neutrality. Align your energy centers. Participate in activities that bring alignment to your realms. From here, you can remember that feeling and bring that feeling into your daily life. As always, you cannot get it wrong. The world exists for you and not against you. Eternal peace, past release, present focus.
That was a packed one. It was a lot of concepts, but I feel like, I don't know. I think when you read these things, everybody takes something different.
There's a lot in there.
And sometimes I'm like, whoa, there's so many pieces. And then it's like, doesn't matter. Like everyone's just going to get a piece of what they feel is important and what they need to hear. And that's what they were meant to hear at that time.
And interpret.
Yeah. For me today, it was a full, for me, it was the part about the somatic stuff. Because I've been overwhelmed with a lot of thoughts lately. I'm like, this thought, and do I believe that? Or do I go? And it's like, and right when you said that, it's just a little bit of a disconnect and you need to do so. And here's a practical tool to get more aligned so that you can feel a little bit more ease and a little bit more clarity and a little bit more neutrality. But you said 1,000 other things. And so I don't know which other one you want to go into, but I do feel like everyone kind of listens to these and then can be like, whoa, that really resonated.
Yes. Everybody, no matter what, and the place that they are in the moment they listen to it. I've had a number of people tell me, I just rewind it and listen to it again. I constantly am rewinding and listening to what they said and rewinding and listening to what they said. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to plug it right now. If you go to thespiritedbody.com, I have all of the channels written out. Oh, you do? So you can go and read them. Okay. So any moment where you're like, what did they say in that forgiveness one? What did they say? Like the actual text. Yes. And the communication. It's the full text. You don't have to hear our witty banter in between. You can go right to it and read it. And every time you read it, you're going to pull a little bit more information out of it that resonates with that moment. I think that there's a lot of information in this, and rereading it and connecting with it in a way that, because I'm so, a few weeks removed from it, is that idea that nothing in the world is existing against you. And it's only your interpretation, the lens that you're looking at in the world as being a threat. And that is very powerful information. And I don't know how many people in this planet are really understand that. And that from a neutral space, from a truly neutral space, you can see that is all it's doing is bringing you information. All it's doing is bringing you information to make the next step so you can have a satisfying life. But if you were looking at it through a different lens, you can't see. You're going to go the slow path. And the universe is constantly showing up. You make a decision and the whole universe is showing up to show you something else, to get you, to steer you, to turn you back to your path. Isn't that crazy?
You know what's so funny is I did this energy work with this woman. I would do it over Zoom, and she's in Spain. She does like wild energy work. And in the sessions with her, I would yawn like 50 times. And I'm like, I feel like I'm losing control of my ability to not yawn. And she was like, oh, yeah. Some people break down crying. It's just a way that your body is moving releasing energy. I've yawned like 20 times in this episode, and I don't know why. And then I was like, oh, whatever you're saying is moving some sort of energy in my body. Like sometimes I want to be so cerebral with everything. And like I had a therapist tell me once, like, you might get praised for some of your intelligence, but it's also a coping mechanism that doesn't always serve you. And so like you have to, not to say that there's definitely not the smartest person in the pool, but I feel like sometimes I try to go to the like cognitive processing, intellectual side of dissecting it and understanding it. And like sometimes we just have to sit in it and not try to understand it so much. Just be in it, be in the concept.
There was a moment where my guides told me, when I was writing some of this text down, especially when it came to when I was creating my deck, that just reading the way that they've transmitted the information and transmitted how the words that were written, that carries with it an energetic transference, some sort of energetic power that just reading it is going to alter you.
But I think that I'll just speak for myself. I think that there is, when you are trying to process intellectually something, if you do that too much, you do lose that connection with your body in a way. And the body, like you said in this reading, has like so much to offer in terms of information. And it's like what that lady said to me, like your body just wants to move the energy and process the energy. So you're going to yawn a lot here. And I'm like, that's so weird. But I think that just even having awareness around that and just saying, I'm going to accept like the physical, like even in this episode, I feel like I want to like stretch and move and I don't know why.
It's, I mean, I can see it. I know it. I understand it. I understand what you're saying. They are present here whenever we do this. They are very present with me and in the room. They, the energetic transfer that they do through the words, through my voice, through my body is real. And I think that's what a lot of what people feel when I'm with them, when I'm doing a reading with them. They feel it, they understand it, they get it. And it affects you whether you are conscious of that, whether you are, consciously aware of that, or not. You're getting a blast.
No, I feel it today. Like I just want to move my body around, and I don't know. I feel like my mind is like, yeah, we're not going to worry so much about this, but I feel my body taking over kind of in a weird way today that I hadn't before. Yeah.
Great. I love that. I love that for you. I love that that's happening to you.
What if I just like strip down naked and just like...
I'm here for it. You know me. I'm absolutely here for it. And the light just turned on. I think that's spirit saying, please take off your clothes. No, this is a great topic. I'm really, I hope you got out of it as much of it as I did. I was really surprised at how dense that was. It was really dense. All right. So I want to just remind everyone to rate, review the podcast if you're enjoying it. You can get in touch with us. Please shoot me an email. I want to know your stories. I want to know your questions.
God, I would love to hear people's stories and questions.
I want to hear stories and questions. Email me, james@thespiritedbody.com. I'm also on Instagram at thespiritedbody. And I'd love to hear from you guys. I want to know what you're thinking and what's happening with you guys out there, all you fellow experiencers. So I hope you guys have a great week. I hope you can digest this information and it is impactful to your life. So until next time, I'm James.
And I'm Katie. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.